We all know that making revenge on someone is futile, self-devastating, and inherently not good in theory. But the catharsis it gives is so intense that we cannot help feeling excited imagining about getting revenge on someone who we hate or is represented as evil. The last piece of the revenge trilogy, directed by Park Chan-wook in South Korea, 친절한 금자씨, that is, kind-hearted 금자, or in English title, Lady Vengeance, can be thought of as the piece where his contemplation on the revenge and the atonement is deeply developed and finally completed. Contrary to the previous two pieces of the trilogy, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance and Oldboy, that shows a simultaneous and at the same time competitive revenge narrative between the protagonist and the antagonist, Lady Vengeance focuses solely on the revenge done by female protagonist alone. The first piece of the trilogy, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, showed the ruinous and violent faces of the two characters making their own revenge, so that the viewer learned that the revenge itself is futile. In this piece, there only exists as the fundamental cause the coincidence that drives the situation to an absurdity, so there is actually no one who wants to atone for his or her own fault. The second piece of the trilogy, Oldboy, is focused on the way to the solution of the mystery, dealing with why the protagonist Odesu is held in captivity for 15 years in a cell. The audience is led to automatically think that he also is to be blamed for some reason in the past to be caught in the cell, and unconsciously feel the need for the atonement by Odesu, whereas he shows no hint of atonement. Rather, he only is dedicated to his revenge other than giving atonement for his sins, lies just to escape from unfavorable situations and hopes to forget everything and live his own life. At this point, the theme of the atonement is only represented indirectly, giving the audience the feeling that the matter of his sins is not properly dealt with or resolved. This matter of atonement is directly handled in the movie Lady Vengeance. One of the motivations of 금자 is the atonement, even though the major motivation was to punish Baek Han-sang, the real criminal of the murder case who made 금자 spend 15 years in a jail and suffer from compulsory separation with her daughter. Her revenge, in a part, was for the atonement toward Wonmo, who was kidnapped and killed by him. The presence of her daughter and the motherhood ignites her motivation of revenge even more. Her motherhood makes her do her utmost effort to save her daughter from the abductors employed by Baek Han-sang. As a strong woman who actively searches for and protects her daughter, 금자 is represented as the independent entity who leads the journey of revenge. Watching her struggling, we are less likely to blame her even though she is the subject of the plan to kill somebody. Rather, to us, she is the hero, the symbol of justice and chastisement. It is the theatrical scenes and presentment that make Lady Vengeance the flowering and also the completion of the trilogy. The dramatic violin melodies and vivid colors, novel transitions of the scenes, toxic dialogues,
너나 잘하세요.
and narrations.
여러분에게
The narration done by somewhat dignified voice of a female leads the storyline. Being the spokesperson for 금자,
불쌍하게도 소녀는 지금 미치기 일보 직전이다.
the narrator sometimes expresses sympathy for her, interprets the case or her feelings on behalf of her. Generally, the narration navigates our thoughts and stands toward the protagonist and the overall theme of the story. Especially this narration takes a crucial role in the movie, making us feel more sympathetic and friendly about her. The paradoxical use of color directly affects the theatricalness of the movie. The color red is represented as a symbol of anger, revenge, and tragic beauty, whereas the color white is used as a symbol of purity and innocence. Although this kind of usage of colors seems too typical, but there is a hidden paradox behind that. The color of the interior of the prison and prisoners' uniform is pastel, whereas the color of the outside of the prison is dark, reddish, and somewhat feels like decadent, which is the opposite of our common impression that the prison is gotta be gloomy and rather decadent, etc. However, in this movie, the prison is represented as the place of the atonement, where the sins are removed, like we do some peeling on our skin, as Kumja says. The fact the innate purity we have in ourselves is restored through the atonement in the place is expressed in those baby-toned colors. Nevertheless, paradoxically, the jail is also the place of fabrication of the tactics of revenge, another kind of sin. For Kumja, all the good deeds were for the sake of rewards. Her sheer intention is hidden by the ostensible kindness she showed. Therefore, the naive atmosphere at the jail comes to us even more paradoxical and alienating. Her revenge, sophisticatedly planned from the period of incarceration, is implemented in earnest after she got out of the jail. Paradoxically, in this condition, she stays at a rather dark, reddish, and more jail-like place as her shelter. Her mind and spirit turns her back to the state of anger, anguish, and potential for another crime. Everybody says she has changed. In the anger and anguish she goes through in the process of revenge, she, by all means, tries to go for the atonement. There are two branches of the atonement. One is the atonement toward Wonmo and the victims, which is directly dealt with in the method of revenge. And the other is toward her daughter, who had to be adopted abroad, the method of which Kumja agonizes for herself. There's an issue on whether she could be forgiven or not in both part of the atonement. For the first part, she fails to be forgiven by Wonmo, seen from the scene from the last part of the movie. It should be considered whether the means of the atonement is justifiable, in this case, which Kumja used for her own mode of vengeance. The means, quite not justified by the intention, were maybe the problem. The atonement was done by another kind of crime, revenge. At this point, we should also consider her sheer purpose of the revenge, deep down of which might exist the anger and resentment. Therefore, the act of revenge is inevitably impure, so she couldn't earn the pardon she desperately wanted. In the end, she became too evil and cruel, a kind of person like Baek Han-sang, to earn the sheer pardon of her spirit. However, would that mean that she never ever be able to earn the pardon? There is another part of the atonement she eagerly wanted to make, the atonement for her daughter. She had the genuine love for her daughter, the motherhood, which can be the reason she can earn the forgiveness of her spirit.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
This 3 times of apology is used as a symbol of her genuine hurt for the atonement. And she seems to achieve it by her daughter, who forgave her because she loved her. In the end, the revenge can never be justified nor be the means of atonement. Her eager effort to be forgiven led her to the pardon by love, not by the bloody revenge or the ostensible goodwill for rewards. As a result, the message,
If you committed a sin, you have to make atonement for that sin.
is left deep down in our heart. Throughout the trilogy, we can notice there seems to exist a subtle gradation from the protagonist and toward the antagonist. And this gradation is well expressed in the cinematic setup. Especially in the scene from Oldboy, the second piece of the trilogy, the protagonist Oh Dae-soo and the antagonist Lee Yoo-jin are both placed in the right side of the screen so that they are identified as the same kind of person in light of the exertion of the violence. That is also shown in the Lady Vengeance, which represents Kumja as gagged like Baek Han-sang as she committed a violence like he did. Rather than clearly differentiate between the good and the evil, the trilogy shows the phase that the good is instilled by the evil so that we can put a question mark onto the real boundary of those two. The main theme thus can be that there is no total good or total evil. If we suppose that there exists a total good and that makes a revenge to the total evil, the act of revenge might be justified. However, showing that there is no such thing, the act of revenge can never be justified. This is it. Thank you for watching and hope to see you in the next video.